Hey guys, Bubba here at the Bubbanews, all in one word, all in one news. I hope you guys are having a great night. And you know what today is? June 30th, the last day of the 6th month. This is crazy. It's hard to believe that we've already gone 60, no, 180 days plus. We're already halfway through this year. Oh my goodness. Tomorrow's July 1st. Oh goodness. Yeah, we're all going to talk about Bibi coming to the U.S., Netanyahu Inbound. Oh, I just realized this before I got going. I just realized who's on Trump's right shoulder right there. Our good old boy, our buddy old pal, Jared Kushner, looking at Bibi coming to the U.S. Yeah, Netanyahu is definitely inbound. Oh, yeah, we'll get right to it. But yeah, here's what we start off today with, because Jesus is not an option. Jesus is the answer. Period. Guys, if you don't know Jesus, the time is now, because what we're getting ready to talk about is very prophetic in nature. And we're going to end it off with the Temple Mount. This is wild times, guys. But getting to the Temple Mount, they're going through a process. And part of this process now, apparently, is Syria. And I don't know how long this song and dance is going to play around. But today, Trump signed an executive order that ends the Syrian sanctions program. But Trump is also getting ready to remove Jolani's group from being designated terrorist. Look at this at the bottom. The order directs the Secretary of State to review HTS and Ahmed al-Shara's designation as specially designated global terrorists. Not going to have to call Jolani part of the terrorism group anymore. They're going to review Syria's designation of a state sponsor of terrorism, being Syria. And, I mean, this is all for what's going on, but this whole thing brings the news. This is basically like a new Syria who's coming back into the fold of the international community all of a sudden, but with the lifting of the economic sanctions on it. So this is a prelude to the framework agreement or a peace treaty very soon that they want to get done between Syria and Israel. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think the question needs to be asked because... oh, man, just look at Trump's picture, look at MBS in the middle, and Jolani on the far right, and that'll tell you everything you need to know. The question that needs to be asked is, with everything that's going on, all of this is in exchange for what? That's the question. What's going on? Trump is doing this for a reason. Mohammed bin Salman is involved also for a reason. Even Reuters citing a senior U.S. official today saying, we are reviewing Syria's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. Ay. So yeah, we're going to come back to Middle East news. But speaking of the terrorism, tonight there's been a lot more attacks there on the Hamas cells being reported there in central Gaza. So Israel's getting ready to turn up the heat. But you know what else is hot lately? The stock market. This is nuts. The S&P 500 today closes above 6,200 for the first time in history. So it's making new highs with everything going on. There's a bubble. There's a huge bubble. And I forgot to throw it in the Telegram to cover tonight, but Trump is talking to federal chairperson Powell and wants him to lower interest rates down to 1%. This would be nuts, and that would be our third quarter of this year would be fully demise of America as we know it. But anyway, this whole video is about Netanyahu because, he's getting ready to meet with President Trump at the White House on Monday, right after July 4th weekend, July 7th. And this is going to be Netanyahu's fourth visit to the United States during the Gaza war since it started, and the third visit since the beginning of Trump's term. But you know what else? Netanyahu may be coming to America, even though the new mayor-to-be in New York says he'll arrest Netanyahu. Trump's not going to do that. But you know who else is not coming to America? It looks like Bob Villin. His U.S. visas have been officially revoked from the State Department. Bob Villin had at least 26 concerts scheduled on his U.S. tour, all canceled. And I want you guys to look at his wrist here. Remember this guy? Look at his wrist. Too bad I didn't have the upside down picture, but look at that. That's the Baphomet satanic goat head. Right up there on his wrist. No wonder he rose to the top. For those who are crying the free speech is down the drain, free speech protections apply to U.S. citizens and residents, not to foreigners trying to enter this country. Visas are a privilege, not a right. The U.S. can block anyone who spreads hate or supports violence. And this is an immigration decision, not censorship. No one is entitled to perform or speak in a country that doesn't want them there. And this is a guy that last night that we saw chanting that at his concert there at the Glastonbury Festival in London. And I guess that whole stage is shaped like a triangle, and there's all kinds of Illuminati stuff involved with that too, which I didn't know, but I was talking to my friend there in the UK, Addie Matashenko, tonight about that. And she was telling me all about that, but one thing she didn't tell me was this. Trump is he notified Congress of a planned $510 million sale to Israel covering over 7,000 precision guidance kits for aerial bombs. As part of this package, those fins, those tails that you see there on the right hand of the picture, 3,845 JDAM kits for the 2,000-pound bomb, the BLU-109, and 3,280 JDAM kits for the 500-pound bomb, the MK-82. You know, and they just had the bomb Iran thing that just happened, but Israel's Minister of Innovation and Technology, Gila Gamaliel, she published a video on her X account today, and she used AI to depict the day after a resolution in Iran. And in the video, we see Prime Minister Netanyahu is seen walking hand in hand with his wife through the streets of Tehran, followed here by the minister Gila Gamliel and her husband and the exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi and his wife. You know, she's done this before because she says she has hopes that together with the Iranian people, the Israelis, will ultimately bring about the Cyrus Accords. So they'd like for this to get going. So we'll have to keep an eye. Is it going to be the Cyrus Accords or the or the Abraham Accords? Ay. But this whole thing with Syria too, because Syria is planning to join the Abraham Accords, and they're willing to concede the Golan Heights permanently. So a report was published today by Israel Hayam, Jerusalem Post, and others. Here's what Syria is demanding, though. They want a full Israeli withdrawal from Syrian territories that Israel's occupied since last December, and they've moved into the Quneitra area there of southwestern Syria. They want Israel to recognize al-Shara's his regime, Jolani's men. They want also a halt to Israeli airstrikes within the Syrian borders. That's not going to happen with Damascus coming up. They want security arrangements in southern Syria and the U.S. to make guarantees to support the Syrian government. And in return, Syria would permanently recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, even though they pretty much have all sovereignty over the Golan Heights right now. And this is why Israel, and I don't know why they did this, but in the past few years, they've been before this war started, they were blowing up a bunch of the mines. The ground mines there that they set up throughout the entire Golan Heights area in the valley there between the mountain ranges where Syrian troops could march in. And they cleared out all these landmines. They don't know Bible prophecy because that's coming. But check it out. Speaking of prophecy, there are more, and we covered this last night, but there are more and more signs for the Temple Mount that are going up. Look, the Har Beit Hashem. The Temple Mount. I mean, Israelis are starting to get excited as they know what's coming. You know, the Third Temple. They're getting really excited. But yeah, I'm going to tie it up here, and we'll finish up here in a few minutes. But yeah, the whole thing with Netanyahu flying to Washington next week to meet with Trump, because there's big efforts by Washington to end the war in Gaza and to free the hostages that have been held there for almost 2 years now. You know, we're getting ready to come up to basically 21 months. And July 7th, the time of his visit, will be 3 months until October 7th, when Trump and Netanyahu want this entire Gaza war wrapped up. So this visit, again, is going to be Netanyahu's third trip to D.C. since he met Trump, since the president returned to office in January. And this meeting coming up, July 7th, will come exactly 2 weeks after Israel and Iran agreed to the U.S. brokered halt to the 12-day air war. That saw the long simmering tensions between Israel and Iran explode, basically, for the first time. I mean, they've had their battles last year with True Promise 1 and True Promise 3, or 2, but this one was just crazy town. But the top issues on the agenda with Netanyahu visiting is going to be Gaza, Iran, and Syria. So Trump wants Israel to agree to a deal to end the war and bring home the remaining 50 hostages in Gaza. But Israel and Hamas remain far apart, as the two sides are sticking to their positions in negotiations with the mediators. But Netanyahu's office says that Ron Dermer is in the U.S. to try to press the Americans to pressure the Qataris. Qatar there to press Hamas for more concessions in the ongoing discussions for a ceasefire and a hostage deal. Qatar is the key, the official added. We're hoping that there will be a breakthrough very soon. It all depends on Hamas. Netanyahu's office said that Israel's military was continuing to press its offensive in Gaza in the meantime. Here's what they said. The official said, "We are continuing to progress and deepen the ground maneuver to pressure Hamas until it agrees to a deal or until we defeat it." So the terror groups in Gaza are still holding 50 hostages. 49 were abducted by Hamas on October 7th. And then one IDF soldier was killed in Gaza in 2014. And they're still holding on to that body from 2014. Tell me that's not nuts. So they believe that there's 20 alive hostages left. But there are grave concerns for the well-being of 2 others. Hamas is holding back the body of the IDF soldier. So we'll see what happens. But this came out tonight, and I wanted to probably end on this because this is crazy town. This came out from Israel 365 News. We all know that they're the mouthpiece for this kind of scenario with the Temple Mount because they know that we, as believers in Jesus Christ, will share the information. But here's what it says. In a remarkable development that highlights the complex relationship between religious belief and political ideology within Orthodox Judaism, the Toldos Aharon Hasidic movement has established a specialized study program for Jewish priests. These are the Kohanim, to prepare for the Third Temple service, despite the group's well-known anti-Zionist stance. So this Toldos Aharon is one of the most conservative streams within Haredi Judaism. And the Hasidic group is characterized by its extreme conservatism, but it opposes Zionism. It opposes the legitimacy of the modern state of Israel, and it maintains strict separation from Israeli society and institutions. And that kind of reminds me of the Essenes. But this anti-Zion ideological position makes their recent initiative all the more interesting because this movement has launched a Kollel. And this is a study program that's exclusively dedicated to learning the intricate laws that perform the temple service. And the rabbi's decision there stems from his belief that current world events signal the approaching arrival of the Moshiach, the Messiah. Here's what he says. We clearly see that we're at the time of Ikesa de Mashiach, the final stage of redemption, Mashika, and the third temple will be built soon in our days. The Rebbe recently declared using the Hebrew term for the footsteps of the Messiah. And his reasoning reflects a theological concern. What will the Mashiach think when he appears to redeem Israel? And there won't be a team of the Kohanim ready for their service at the temple. But check it out, the program operates in the morning, and these guys get a $500 stipend to study the laws. But here's the thing that really got me going, because the Temple Institute, founded in 1987, established both a school for the Kohanim in 2016 and a registry of qualified priests 4 months earlier. And their program it requires that participants to have clear priestly DNA lineage. They also have to be born and raised in Israel, maintain the laws of ritual purity incumbent upon the priests. Modern science has provided remarkable validation for the preservation of the priestly lineage. Over 98% of Jewish men who identify as the Kohanim share a specific genetic marker, providing scientific evidence for the integrity of the patrilineal priestly heritage that has been maintained over nearly 2,000 years since the destruction of the Second Temple. And the genetic anyway, because it continues, combined with the careful preservation of their priestly genealogies, well, this has led many there in Israel now to start believing that these modern Kohanim will indeed serve in the rebuilt Third Temple, despite the nearly 2,000 year gap in the practical temple service. This is wild, just wild, because we're just talking about the Jewish signs for the first time ever that are being installed in Israel, pointing the direction to the Temple Mount for the Third Temple. And now we have these priestly men that are getting ready to serve. This is nuts. This is what I'm saying. Everything in Bible prophecy is coming up, including this whole thing with Netanyahu coming to the United States, because they want to wrap up this war in Gaza, but they still have to deal with Hamas. The people know this, Israel knows this, but Israel wants to get back their hostages soon. And if Israel starts going in like on hostage retrieving missions, we'll have to keep an eye on that, because that could get really ugly really fast. Because with Netanyahu Inbound, we could be hearing all kinds of crazy town talk coming in the news very soon as well. And I'm still keeping my eye on Iran, because even tonight, there were a couple drone attacks in Tehran. And I was reading about how it's very possible, we'll find out possibly in the next few days, but it's very possible that there were some drones that were sent into Tehran to take out some high-end IRGC commanders and officials. So this could kick off a new thing coming up. And I forgot to put it on here, but I'll throw it up on Telegram and I'll cover it tomorrow night. But there's this plan, and I'm trying to put the puzzle pieces together. But it's this thing, and I was reading it last night in Jerusalem Post and whatnot, but there's still this plan by Iran. They estimate that Iran, out of 2,200 hypersonic ballistic missiles, they've used about 400, and they believe that they have around 1,800 left. 1,800. But the plan is for Iran to overwhelm the Israeli air defenses, including the U.S. THAAD-based missile system, Arrow 3, Arrow 2, David Sling, and an Iron Dome, and then fire another large batch of missiles in unison shortly a few minutes later, knowing that Israel will not be able to restock their interceptor missiles in time. So that is still coming, and then I believe that that's going to tie on to eventually what is coming, where these nations surrounding Israel are then going to march into Israel. And there's going to be a ground incursion, and it's going to be an unsuccessful one. And we read about how God is going to empower the IDF, especially in Zechariah 12, verses 4 to 6, for those people round about Israel, Israel's Psalm 83 neighboring countries. And with that, we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for your prayers. Seriously, you guys are just amazing. I don't know what else to say except for thank you to you new people that have joined the channel. This has just been a lot of fun. And if anything, I just want to be a blessing for the Lord Jesus Christ and show forth his name. You know, and everything we say or do all to the glory of God. And that's what I want to just finish strong in these final days. But as we're getting closer to the end, these Bible prophecies are coming alive. And hopefully we'll be able to share the good news of the Lord Jesus Christ with them, so that they can get right with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. All right, we'll end it now. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Maranatha. Jesus is coming so very soon.